And Haps right now is in the midst of a challenge, and the challenge is we have to get 250 views for a business show. If we could do that today, I would be forever grateful to all my people. Now, here's the thing. I might be able to bring up a couple of you at the end if you want to ask some questions. They love things about their hair and their wardrobe. No, just kidding. So we're going to start off. How about with the new guy, Ari? Ari, do you want to start off the topic? First of all, we're going to get you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and whatever you're comfortable with. And if you're not comfortable saying anything, I totally understand. Go for it.
Yeah. Welcome, everyone. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for everyone for welcoming me here. So my name's Ari. Yeah, I live in Southern Ontario, Canada, with 3 of these other fine folks, and the other one's from somewhere else. And let me see a little bit myself. Been in sort of different software related roles my whole career, but try to not make that my identity in my life. And so I try my best to do a lot of reading. I try my best to understand other topics. I try my best to make myself uncomfortable, as a way to learn. And so, for myself, and that comes out a lot in both in terms of the conversations I'm willing to have, the jobs that I sometimes take, that kind of thing. And so, maybe I'll leave it at that right now. And if other stuff comes out, through our discussions, that's great.
Okay. Do you want to introduce anybody else in the room? Or Carmi, you've been here a lot.
Yeah.
We love you being here.
Yeah. I'm almost wearing out my welcome, Michael. Jeez.
Never. We love you, man. You're the best.
So by day, I am the director of public relations at Infotech Research Group. So I work with all 3 of these illustrious gentlemen in different capacities. My job, take the research that we do and help it find an audience through media. But I love what Ari said about kind of not defining himself in a finite or static way. Like we are all polymaths. We're all multifaceted individuals. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a writer, I'm a photographer, I've been an IT practitioner. I like to ride my bike really far away and then just reflect. I want to make sure that whatever I do, whether it's personally or professionally, has some kind of positive impact. Leave the world a better place than it was when you got there. That is my mission. So everything I do kind of fits that. We're given a limited amount of time on this planet, and we want to make sure that we're doing the right things with it. That's pretty much it. So that's why I'm here this morning. It's why I work for this company. It's why I love surrounding myself with brilliant, creative people like what you see on your screen. Because at the end of the day, this is what it's all about.
I want to quickly just chime in about Carmi's Facebook page and Facebook posts. It's probably some of my absolute favorite stuff that I'm right now. When I read on Facebook, I mean, I get pretty tired of Facebook with everyone posting pictures of how healthy their meals are and all this kind of stuff, and showing off how much they go to the gym or working out or whatever. And Carmi's posts are real, they're authentic, they make me think. Even perspectives about a jar of cherry jam I found immensely fascinating. You did a little while ago, Carmi. So I just wanted to say, I'm serious. I'm not joking. I just wanted to say that and say that, you definitely have a fan in terms of what you post.
I super appreciate that. Thanks so much, Ari. That is, the photography, I took it up as a teenager because I knew I was going to be a writer, a journalist, and I wanted to be able to take my own pictures. I didn't want to leave it to someone else to take them. So the photography has kind of grown along with my writing over the years. And every day I take one picture and then I write a little, what I call a vignette around it. I just talk about it. And no, I don't eat the best meals all the time. I don't always exercise. I don't have the perfect photogenic life, but I have a life. And I just want to share little snippets of it. And I find, especially now that we're all dealing with the pandemic, it's a pretty stressful time on planet Earth. I find that little kind of break every single day where I get to be creative, not for anyone else, just for me, just to have some fun, and then share it on my social channels. It's a blessing. And here in 2021, we have the most sophisticated tools in the history of humankind to create and share and interact and build community. And what a cool thing that from my home basement office in the middle of a lockdown, I can reach out and connect with folks everywhere, no matter where they are. I miss seeing Ari and Hans's and Michael's smiling faces in the office. I can't get on a train and go see them, but we can stay connected this way. And so if you're thinking, how do I get through this pandemic? That's how I do it. And so I'm really glad, Ari, that you're enjoying it. I just want you all to know I enjoy it too. And I'm hoping that if it motivates even one person just to pick up a camera, pick up a pen, a virtual pen, whatever it is, and start sharing, that's a really cool way to get through this. And I find it's
That
really
is
helping
such a
me, and I'm
good
pretty
point.
sure it'll help us all.
That's a good point. Now, here's the thing. Everybody knows Hans now. Hans is a local celebrity here now on Haps. He's already got his people. His people love him. They've connected with him. Now, believe it or not, we've only been up for a few minutes. 61 viewers already.
Woo!
61
Welcome.
viewers. Now, I know 59 of them are for Hans, but hey,
Yeah.
don't you worry. I'll get over it. I'll be fine.
I wouldn't say that at all.
Hans, can you do me a favor and just give them a brief intro of you, even though they know you probably better than I do now? So go for it.
Absolutely. And welcome to all the new people finding Michael's channel and joining us today. Happy to see you here. Unlike Carmi and Ari, I don't have much of a life. So my personal social channels are pretty much a void that mirrors space with a few occasional bright spots. However, I do share my help guides. I focus on innovation, process automation, also similar to Ari, have a long career in IT delivery and business architecture. And so I publish articles on LinkedIn, my website, Ekman Guides, and prior to getting locked down, I was presenting at conferences across US and Canada, and I share that information, those conference videos for free off of my website. And as Michael mentioned, I have the honor of starting up a new show that I've been bringing on some amazing guests, Better Tech, Better Living. Running that on Tuesday and Thursdays at around 5:15 Eastern Standard Time. So please check it out. Join us. I don't know who I will have on this week, but previously we had Allison talking about empowerment and going from being shy to public speaker. Leslie Hughes talked about how to build and maintain your personal brand. And Andy and I had a very entertaining discussion on why almost all of the data reporting and data management around COVID has been just nightmare and what they could have done better. So if you like that, you're going to see more shows. So thanks, and excited to be here again Sunday.
Okay, Hans, I'm going to get you to start the first topic, which you're comfortable with. I just want to also say before we start here, thank you, community, for talking to each other and keeping each other happy here. It's going to be tough for us to do all the comments. As you can see, Hans has got his little fingers going 5,000 miles an hour to try to make you all happy, but we will do the best that we can. And this is a little bit different format. Brother John, thank you for being here. And Carmi's also helping out. Thank you, Carmi. What a good guy. Yep. All right, Hans.
And Brother John, thanks for joining. For those of you who are tuning in to one of our other channels, unfortunately, we can see the comments as they pop up, or hopefully most of them. But when we reply within Haps, it doesn't post back out to YouTube, Facebook, any of the other channels we're broadcasting. So we'll try and bring them up live, but no, we're not ignoring you. We may have replied in Haps. It's worth going ahead and subscribing to Haps as well. It's completely free. And that also allows you, if you find a show you really like, to potentially pop up and join the discussion in that show. So kicking things off, one of the biggest news pieces over the last 2 weeks that I wanted to talk about is adventures in GameStop and Reddit. So for those of you who have been following it, the short version is hedge funds for a while have been either selectively investing in the market or, depending on your outlook, trying to manipulate the market by pumping up or recommending or devaluing stocks that they don't think are good, and then riding and making money on the changes. Reddit users, a group of smaller individual investors, decided to bet against them. So they created an online discussion group, found some of the stocks like GameStop that were a little bit volatile or very inexpensive, and started betting against the hedge funds, creating a really shockwaves and in some cases tremendous loss. So it's not an innocent crime against the hedge funds because those funds are in our retirement. And our retirement, even if we don't have those funds or those stocks necessarily, that instability is really hurting a lot of individual retirement plans right now. So, what I wanted to bring up for our group to discuss is so far, Reddit hasn't shut down or taken actions against those conversations. I'm not sure, and I didn't have a chance to figure out who actually hosts Reddit servers. But not too long ago, we saw Amazon with very little warning cut Parler off of its servers by saying that they were being used to incite riots and protests and illegal activities, and so they booted them off their service. So at what point do companies who are providing a platform, even as much as hosting services, have a responsibility for controlling how their product is used?
I don't
That's
mind going
not a
first.
loaded question at all. That's
No.
Not at all, but we got smart people here.
Yeah. So let me, there's a lot of streams of thought there, a lot of different ways you could take this. So first of all, there's the whole, and I'm going to call it a false equivalency with Parler. I don't see them as being, just being the same at all. There is with Parler what you're looking at, and again, regardless of what side of the debate you're on, Trump versus not, that's actually irrelevant here. There was a terms of service violation here with Parler, a clear and distinct terms of service violation, and based on the contract, the way it was Amazon wrote it, they wrote it in a way that was honestly a little unfair, where they said, okay, you have 30 days to fix this, but then they have another clause which said they're choosing, they could override and just shut them down at their whim. So they're working within their terms of service. So I'm pretty cold about this from a legal perspective. There is a debate to be said whether or not they should be allowed to keep running. Amazon I don't think has done anything legally wrong there. Now, when we go and take a look at the Reddit, the thing with Reddit here, there's a question you're asking there, Hans, I think, as to, how do you define harm? When I think about it here, you're really asking that, like, how do you define harm? And is that harm sufficient enough to warrant Reddit having both a legal and probably maybe a moral and ethical obligation to shut it down? And I'm not. And that's an interesting question here. I mean, if I put like David and Goliath lens on this for a second here, I mean, there's teetering mistrust in the financial market anyways here with what I'll call, and I'm going to use terrible generalities here, bigwig investors messing with the market here. So now you have the Davids going up and sticking a finger in their eyes. And so, the slight activist side of me says, you know what, that's great. That's kind of giving them a taste of their own medicine. There is a challenge there, of course, on whether that means that there's irreparable harm. I don't know. It creates significant mistrust in a market that we're all relying on for our retirement and for our investments and for our savings. And so, that's I'm not going to pass it on to someone else here, but but my first immediate reaction was I thought the Parler comparison was a bit of a false equivalency, but there is a debate to be had around whether or not there is how do you define harm and whether the harm is sufficient enough that Reddit is right to act, and I don't know where I fall on that yet. Go ahead, I'm good.
Okay, I just, if you guys, instead of typing, if you see a couple comments there you think are worth addressing, we can, you can say hello.
Bring into the discussion. Yep.
Yeah.
So Brother John brings a great example of the devil's in the detail. And then Chris also talks, is this a point where the SEC can enforce this on market manipulation? They're looking into it, and that's going to be really interesting. When I first heard this, I thought, absolutely, this is the equivalent of insider trading. The more I've looked into it, I don't know if it is, because they're not working on insider information, but they are coordinating. And I don't know SEC regulations well enough. Carmi, what do you think on this subject?
When I first, became aware of the Reddit, the subreddit Wall Street Bets, and I sort of took a look at what was being discussed there and how it was influencing the market. My first thought was, David versus Goliath. They're taking the hedge funds, the Wall Street firms, kind of the establishment down a peg. They're democratizing the process of buying and trading stocks, which, for the longest time has really been the domain of we talk about insider trading. What is Wall Street but a bunch of insiders?
Right.
And the argument that somehow that Wall Street Bets, that what was happening on Reddit was an example of insider trading, I found kind of laughable, because if you looked at the back and forth, it was trading tips. It was sharing publicly available information. There's nothing subversive about this. There's nothing secretive about it. It really is it's the ultimate promise of technology, which is take what was once under the domain of exclusivity and make it available to the crowds, and kind of let the rest of us leverage technology to be part of a process we weren't previously part of. Is it dangerous to the market? Does it threaten our retirement? I would say let's look to history for some context. Look back to 2007, 2008. In the lead up to the crash that kicked off the Great Recession, the subprime mortgage crisis, the questionable trades that were being leveraged and the questionable deals that were being put together. Basically it was pyramid scheme on top of pyramid scheme that was driven by not folks in a Reddit group, but by those very same hedge funds and Wall Street firms. So this has been done before. We didn't question it in the late aughts, when the establishment was manipulating the market, probably engaging in the definition of insider trading and kicking off the greatest economic challenge that we've seen in our generation, at least up until what we're seeing now with the pandemic. So, if we're going to try to draw equivalency here, the crowd was leveraging publicly available information to do what they do, using technologies in a new and creative way, and we're calling them on it. If we're going to call them on it, then we probably should have called the Wall Street firms on this as well, 12, 13 years ago, and maybe we would have been in better economic shape. So it's somewhat disingenuous to blame the crowds for simply seizing on an opportunity with technology and process. And quite frankly, nothing is owed to us. Our retirement isn't owed to us. It's not that the markets owe us a return. We all know what we're getting into when we buy stocks. We all know what we're getting into, that there's a risk. And that risk was just as true in 2008 as it is today. Whether in fact it's Wall Street firms pulling the levers or thousands of people in a group on Reddit.
Yep. And Richard brings up is, how does this potentially affect our retirement? And, for an individual stock and the individual trades, not a lot. The problem is when the shorts that it was creating is having a ripple effect to other areas. And ultimately, it's a long-term bet. So short-term, you could gain or lose, but long-term, hopefully it will even out and be okay. And then Brother John brings up that, and I guess the core of the conversation that I was thinking is, are you going to be a platform or are you going to be a publisher? So Amazon and their hosting has terms of service for what you can host. They took Parler off because of violating their terms of service. Robinhood saw the volatility and the manipulation and prevented its users from buying those stocks. And now there's an outrage saying, who are you to decide which stocks I could buy or trade? So kind of getting to that core, what are some of the things companies need to think about in terms of how their services are being used? Like, car manufacturers have always fought off lawsuits whether they're liable for car accidents when it's the driver's fault. And there's a lot of similar industries. What should companies be thinking about from a either direct risk management or a reputational risk standpoint?
I've just got a quick kind of perspective on that, and then I'll hand over to Ari. I think, I look at all of this similar to, let's go back to elementary school. There's a playground. There are rules of that playground. Whoever builds that playground gets to make the rules. And so it is as simple as that. If you are a Robin Hood, your accountability extends to making sure that those rules are clear, that they're articulated, that they're communicated properly to everyone, and that they're appropriately and relatively consistently enforced. That's it. Robin Hood does not, they're not a utility. It is not an inalienable right of all of us to use Robin Hood. If we cross those lines of the rules that they lay out, then we are liable to get kicked off. If the if market conditions dictate that they don't allow certain stocks to be traded by certain people, well, then as long as it was in the terms of service, then that's fair game. We can go find another app. The world is composed of many different playgrounds, and life is really nothing more than a game of trying to figure out which ones you want to play in, and which ones make the most sense for you to be in the first place. So whether it's calling up a Wall Street firm and deciding you want to trade with them, or trying to do it on your own with an app like Robinhood, Wealthsimple, Moomoo, or TradeStation, or whatever, they are not beholden to us all. And same thing with Parler. If Parler does not adhere to the rights of Amazon or the rules of Amazon's playground, they're gone. And it's as simple as that. And this is not. I think we have to understand that variability, and from a corporate perspective, the better you communicate that, the more likely you are to ensure that your stakeholders are on side, even if they do in fact find themselves blocked from the platform. The problems arise when you don't communicate it, when you are inconsistent in how you both build the rules, communicate the rules, and apply the rules. And that's kind of the problem now, is everyone's just figuring out their own strategy, assuming they have one in the first place. And there isn't a whole lot of appropriate communication around what is and is not in scope, what is considered acceptable behavior or not. And that's why we end up with chaos like this. Communicate it better. That goes a long way toward ensuring that everyone understands the rules of the game.
Carmi, okay, we're going to switch the topic, because we could talk on this forever. We're chewing on this sucker like nobody. All right, your turn. You pick a topic, start talking, rock and roll, hoochie go. Hey, listen, thank you to everybody in the room. Insane amount of comments, a lot of passion, a few wingers back and forth. That was good. We enjoy that. So, Ari, your turn. Go.
So I actually really like the talk. I'll be honest. I actually think Carmi, what direction was going into the next interesting topic is, should there be sort of that public square, right, on where anything goes, and perhaps should the government be the only one to own that, right, so that it is truly public, right? We were talking. I completely agree with what Carmi was saying before around, you have all of these different services, and there's a terms of service, and it's all about there's a question about, are you applying it all fairly? And I get all of that, but again, they're all private companies, and if I feel like kicking you off, you know what, I'm going to kick you off because it's my business. You can go to someone else's house. I'm completely cold about that. We can talk about whether it's been fairly applied, but I'm completely cold about it. But there's another important question there on, we don't really have a public square like in the center of town. Right. So what is our public square? Right. And should it be a business, or should that be sort of a public good?
And Carmi, you have quite an extensive background in media, news, broadcasting. What are your thoughts here on, there's definitely channels where it's more regulated or more controlled. Should there be open and uncontrolled free speech available?
Well, it's interesting because I look at it kind of like this, like a large balancing act, right? On the one hand, there's this ideal freedom of speech, freedom of expression. We should all have that freedom to say what we want in any context to anyone at any points in time, anywhere. And that's the ethos that Ari is describing, which is this kind of unfettered town square, which is really where we used to gather before we had all of these modern communication technologies. We've simply shifted all of that into the virtual space, the online space. But kind of here's the thing is, freedom of speech and freedom of expression are not unlimited. They are not inalienable. In other words, there are limits on it to the point that we are going to have to rein them in when that limitlessness threatens to cause damage. My right to swing my arm at high velocity with my fist clenched at the end of it stops at the tip of your nose. And I think that kind of same ethos has to be applied to freedom of expression. And so, for the government to sanction the creation of an open space where anything goes, kind of like the purge, and to then allow, that to, racism, xenophobia, homophobia, you name it, conspiracy theories. We have to ask ourselves, is this contributing to the greater good? Or is this kind of the part where that punch doesn't stop at the tip of our nose, but continues and actually causes damage? And so we have to balance those two seemingly competing ideals. I think one can make the argument that the internet as a whole, as an entity, is kind of that unfettered landscape with individual actors deciding where those limits are and are not. And I think human nature being what it is, there do have to be appropriate limits to ensure that humanity's ideals are kind of respected and advanced, and we don't end up in 1930s, 1940s Germany all over again.
So Luke brings up Luke and Cran bring up some interesting points in the comments, and love the conversation that's going on here.
Thank you.
Luke mentions, okay, so are we going to take free First Amendment, free speech so far that it becomes a purge? Well, then we're crossing over from free speech to action. So I don't think that's where we're trying to center this discussion. And then Cran mentions that there should be no, if I read these correctly, there should be no instance where private companies or private conversations can do whatever they want. And I think that when we look at history, and not necessarily the big horrible ones that have led to some of the world wars, but even in terms of modern day China and Venezuela and other countries, and now in Myanmar, where the very first thing that happened after a coup, a takeover, is the limit of free speech, the limit of information. Because if the government or a company can control the flow of information, then they control what people think and believe. So being more of, a non-practicing anarchist, I think that it's perfectly reasonable to have areas where, hey, if you want to have a absolute crazy conspiracy theory on alien lizard people invasions, why not?
That sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, let people talk about it. Let people have their, free speech is critical to freedom of thought and freedom of people and freedom from oppression. And I think that that has to be protected at all costs. Now, when those thoughts start crossing over into mainstream conversations, then yes, I think news, companies, individuals should help. I'm not saying filter, but should challenge and help bring out what is the real information, what is going on, like the misinformation around COVID or the elections. That type of information in mainstream needs to be challenged. But I absolutely, regardless of how much I hate what might be in those chat channels, would defend their right to have those conversations. And I think anything short of defending the speech you hate the least is leading to the downfall of individual freedoms.
I really like that, and I'll tell you something, and I'll even be a little more blunt than that. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. Is I like my anti-Semitism to my face, right? I want to know what's out there. No, I'm being serious, right? I want to know. I would rather not push you so deep into the shadows that you are now angry, that you are now getting more bitter. You're looking at some of the election choices made over the years with certain groups and, the major revolutions and the major things there. It's because there was a disenfranchisement. There was a lack of a voice. That doesn't mean a confirmation that you're right, but the lack of a voice and an opportunity for those groups to raise what their concerns are, raise what their issues are. And then, without that, you don't have the opportunity to go back and say, well, I actually think you're wrong, and here's why. Social media has been, this all gets into the whole social media thing, where it's been wonderful in some ways where I have lots of choice. The disadvantage is because I have so much choice, I could filter out exactly what I don't want to hear, which creates, again, you're ghettoizing the everything. I apologize. Yes, Michael.
Okay. This is Sunday. This is a good feeling program.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to take it in a little different direction. I loved it. I love spice. I love spice. I also love spirit. So we're going to go a little slightly different, more into the woo path for a second. And all of you I know will have wonderful insights on this. So many companies right now are having real problem with engagement. They're having problems with people being excited to go to work. We've got people who are now in what I would call cabin fever. We have a branch of people who never want to go back to work the way it was before. And there are a lot of people who believe we don't have compassion anymore. We've lost the empathy piece. And it's all over the internet. How engagement is down. People are saying that this is unhealthy. Please do not leave. We love that you're here. Be unhealthy for a little longer, which is great. But if you're spending 8 to 10 hours a day, looking at a screen instead of being outside and connecting with nature, what I'm suggesting is, how much longer are we going to be able to do these behaviors and be kind of robots and not have some kind of massive fallout with mental health? So I know this is a really warm, fuzzy topic. So we'll start with Carmi, and then we'll work around the room.
We'll go downhill from there.
Yeah.
Well,
That means I'll last.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll try not to cast too dark a cloud on everyone by kicking this
Well,
off.
no, we could go back to the light later and the dark, and we'll do the yin yang.
This is perfect. This is perfect. You keep us in line, Mike. Thank you.
From where I sit, I mean, I think we've been building toward this moment for years, and I think the pandemic has kind of forced our hand. The technologies for online collaboration have been getting better and better, but the culture has lagged behind. And I think anyone who, in years past would have gone to their boss and advocated for working from home more often, kind of ran into that. It simply wasn't taken seriously. You're only working if you're actually in the office. There was kind of this prevailing sense that physicality equaled productivity, equaled commitment, equaled professionalism. And obviously, having millions of knowledge workers go into lockdown, being forced to use these tools exclusively, has really shifted the equation significantly. And I think it's like a massive experiment in online technologies. Just how far can we go with them? We don't have a choice. And there's going to be a spectrum of experience across all of us. And some of us will take to it like water. Others will have difficulty. I think all of us are experiencing difficulty because we've had to adjust so quickly, so radically. But at the same time, I think this is an important, not just individual, but national and global conversation. What are these tools? How do they help us stay connected? What are the best practices for us to retain that sense of humanity, even though we, haven't physically been in the same room for going on a year now? And so, yes, there are mental health impacts. I think we are all feeling it. I think all of our viewers and listeners today, as well as all of us here in the virtual room, I think would be lying if we said that we're not feeling that. And Michael, you're absolutely right. Today is a gift. Every day is a gift.
Amen.
But at the same time, I think we also have to look at this as an opportunity. We're finally having conversations about next generation use of next generation messaging technologies that we have been putting off for years. And we're finally talking about how we can use them for good. And so we're starting to see, within my team, we're seeing creative ways to use these tools to stay connected, virtual happy hours, one-on-ones, online gaming. I know it sounds really trivial, but little points of connection like that, when you seek them out, can make a huge difference in terms of maintaining that humanity at a time when it can feel really hard. So, I see the challenge. I certainly appreciate the impact on it. I'm experiencing it. We all are. But at the same time, let's look at this through a lens of opportunity. What is it about these tools that we can seize on and figure out new ways to collaborate, new ways to stay productive, new ways to be human? And every day I learn something new about how these tools work. Every day these tools get better. And I think it's up to us to not lament the fact that we're living in tough times. It's up to us to take control of the fantastic opportunity we've been given and do something with it and come up with a better way, so that when this pandemic is over, we will have the ability to go in and be together. We'll also have these tools that we can sort of put together in a hybrid approach and ultimately lead better, richer, cooler lives. That to me, and I might sound like a rose-colored glasses optimist, but at the end of the day, what choice do we have? These are the circumstances we've been given. It's kind of our choice to decide how we're going to respond to them.
Yep. And Kelly here mentions that being in the mental health profession, that her area has been helped or hurt far more than others. And so not only are we seeing this across all areas, but some industries, some areas are being disproportionately affected and making their ability to deliver quality service even harder. Ari, what's your take on it?
So, when I think about COVID, I'm going to make one quick comment. I'm going to come back to the topic here. Is, imagine if this happened 30 years ago. Imagine if this happened 30 years ago. Like, what would we do? Right, that's a whole thing that I keep thinking about, and I would love to bring that up at some point as a topic. But coming back to sort of the questions here, is I agree that it's this is forcing us and accelerating our use of technology by about 10 years. If we didn't have this and we were kind of going along our merry way, I mean, it would have taken us probably 10 years to get to the point to have the discussions that we're having now. So I actually think that this is, I think that there is an opportunity here, and I like Carmi's words about treating it as an opportunity to really think about how we want to leverage these tools to make sure we use it for good and not for bad. The interactions are a challenge. I'm the kind of person where I just like sitting around with you, drawing on a whiteboard or doing some things or having a beer or whatever. And so this in particular for me has been really, really hard. And as a technology person who embraces technology here, I mean, I'm old-fashioned in certain ways, and interaction is one of them. But I would say that, a lot of it is about creating a diversity of ways to connect. And so I like that idea, and I like that kind of discussion, through Zoom or Teams or whatever format you use there. Creating sort of online gaming ways of connecting with each other. I know that I have a teen and a tween in the house, and I know that online gaming aspect has been their social life, and it has saved them in a lot of ways. I mean, my heart goes out to my heart goes out to them. My heart goes out to the children who are just sort of learning how to interact and learning how to be with others. I'm sorry, Michael. Yes, you're raising your hand.
Just before we go past it, the only thing that does concern me with children and gaming is the bullying aspect of it, and that has also been heightened to levels of beyond your wildest dreams, and even on formats like this. So, we were talking about the light and the dark, and no matter how good something is, there always seems to be a fallback on it. And you get a few individuals that take something that's so wonderful, even like HAPS, and make it ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Right?
I apologize, Michael. I'll stop doing that.
Well, yeah. You know what? But you also have to be your authentic self. Right. And we're never going to stop you from being your authentic self.
And so with any tool, you can use it for good and for bad. I could take an apple, I can take an apple and a knife and use that knife to cut that apple, or I can use that knife for evil. It's about understanding the tools and how to use them. So it's about talking to I'll use my children as an example now. It's about talking to them about the tools to say, like, look, you might have some people on here that are going to say bad things to you, that are going to say whatever. You have to understand what's important there. Is what they say is important, or is what we say that's important? Is what your friends, your immediate friends say that's important? And trying to give them that perspective. I mean, my daughter's run into that silliness, even with the online games she's played, and we've talked her through that. Mm-hmm. And so,
forget.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, please, you go ahead.
And don't forget that Snow White would say that the apple can be even more dangerous than the knife sometimes.
Yes. Very good point.
For me, I take a little bit, absolutely, and the stress, not diminishing the stress, but we can, if you want to watch the news 24/7, if you want to subscribe to doom and gloom media channels, you can find all sorts of ways to be terrified, depressed. I try and tune most of those out. I keep up because it's important to know what's going on, but really, if you look for positive, if you look for good things, you'll find a lot more than if you're not actively looking for them. For me, I would say it's kind of like cube life. So when our offices were converted from having an office and a space that you could customize and make your own, and then suddenly we had these horrible cubes, and then the cubes got smaller and the walls got shorter, so we couldn't have conversations anymore. And then we started hoteling, meaning I couldn't even have pictures or anything stored there. I had to wheel a little cart to whichever cube happened to be open.
Yeah.
We've adjusted. Now we're having to adjust to this hyper remote. And for a lot of people, it's saved the commute. It's reduced pollution. It's actually, in a lot of areas where I was involved, it has had tremendous good, because teams, to Ari's point, can't just talk things out and throw it on the whiteboard and then nobody records that information. Now we're being much more deliberate about saving information, developing baseline information for a lot of our systems. So our documentation, the rigor and quality is actually going up in a lot of areas. That is a good thing. And does it offset the bad things? Probably not, but I think we can see a benefit. And as we start moving back to more of a hybrid world, let's try and keep those good things we've developed, enhance them further, and then replace some of those bad, annoying things. Like Ari loves to be around people. I don't. Like, this pandemic has basically been my life if I could have drawn it out, because I get to hide except for when I choose to talk to people. So for me, it hasn't been that bad. I'm an introvert. Love is haps.
Amen.
Haps is love.
Amen, Michael.
It's hapsiness.
So guys, hapsiness. Oh my Lord, help us all.
Sorry. I'm dropping you.
You're not dropping anything. Just relax. Okay. So we are currently at 41 minutes, and we've danced in the dark side. Or no, that was Dancing in the Dark. Bruce Springsteen. We're just dancing in the dark, or in the dark side, or something. When you were talking, Ari, about the knife, I was frightened.
Why?
I have to admit.
Why?
If this doesn't work out, you can do storytelling. No problem. Yeah.
Fair
Well, you've
enough.
never seen him lead a workshop then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's awesome at it.
So has everybody had a chance to ask a question? Or what direction do you guys want to go in? Because we never go in the right direction, but it's always great. Look at the movement here in the comments. People
I'm looking at
rocking.
them.
Ari, since he's been here, it's just rocking the place, buddy. We need you all the time. Look at it. You're stern emotion. That's good. Carmi and I are just too love.
This is a luxury. On conventional television, you never get this kind of feedback. You're just talking into a camera, and you're assuming that it's going out into the ether, but you don't get anything back. At least not in real time. You can check social media afterward. Here, it's immediate. It's visceral. There's a lot of energy here. It's delightful.
Is everybody okay to go another, say, 15 minutes? And
I could do 15.
You could do 15? Do you want to talk to your people? I'll get my people to talk to your people now.
Yeah, they'll call you.
Okay,
No problem.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. That's good. Do we want to go on the dark side before we leave? Because they sure love the dark. They're non on it. So
yeah. So I would say,
is there anything we can go dark wise?
So
always.
So why do you call those topics the dark? I actually don't find it dark. I find it fascinating, important conversation. So I would love to ask,
why
why
so close to the screen, sir?
I'm with Ari as well. How do you know that you have light unless you have dark to compare it to?
Exactly.
Life is a spectrum of experience, and just because something is a little bit, dark doesn't necessarily mean that it's a necessary part of our existence. And I wouldn't appreciate the feeling of sun on my face, or sitting on a beach, in some subtropical zone with the waves lapping over my feet, if I didn't have minus 20 and howling Canadian winter conditions to compare it to. And so I think that's important. Is that I think that the world is a place with all sorts of experiences, and I don't necessarily see darkness as negative. It's something that helps turn us into better people.
Agreed.
I'll challenge that a little, Carmi.
Sure.
I can appreciate our 8 to 10 degrees Celsius weather today, and I can watch the horrible weather you're having in Toronto, London, and Minneapolis, where I have some other friends, and I can appreciate my weather even better by not living there. So
there you go.
I chose to escape the horrible Minnesota weather, and yes, knowing that it's out there, but I don't have to experience to remember how miserable that can be. I'm only reminded when I go to Toronto during the winter, and everyone, for some reason, I always hit a major blizzard. It's uncanny.
You do bring it. You do bring it with you, Hans. It was uncanny. I agree. Yeah.
Can I give you one topic, maybe you want to gnaw on a bit, and it's a little odd topic?
Go.
Bitcoin.
Specifically, like
what
about it? There's so many ways to slice this one.
Well, what do you feel comfortable talking about? Because it's been in the news. It's been everywhere. It's even been talked about in my house. My wife has been discussing it with me, wondering, the pros and the cons of it. We've got many channels on HAPS that have been addressing this. So I just thought it might be something to gnaw on for a bit.
I don't have any Bitcoin. I don't have a lot of interest in getting it. I'm not against people who get it, but again, just letting you know, just my background with this here. I don't have a horse in this race. Again, it's another example of sort of democratizing something that was really, that before wasn't, where before it was all about, US being the gold, US being the gold standard in terms of currency and everything measured against that. And really, very limited people being able to sort of control or have any, apply any fiscal policy that could impact that currency. Now you're seeing that blow up a lot more, really opened up to everybody. I actually, I don't know what the impact will be. I've read a couple interesting books, a great author named Daniel Suarez, and where he actually spent some time talking about sort of, and it was a bit of a different context about really sort of a virtual reality subculture and where their currency kind of took over the actual currency. And it was very interesting, which reminded me of Bitcoin a lot. And it actually created a real, the way it was written in a way where it was causing a massive problem, where, economies were collapsing as a result. I don't necessarily agree with that when it comes to Bitcoin, but the question that I have around that is, who governs it, right? There needs to be at least. I know we all want to say, well, we want to have absolute freedom. Well, the disadvantage of absolute freedom is that it's absolute freedom, and you have and there's a bit of chaos associated with it. So, who are the smart people? They're going to make sure that Bitcoin doesn't go completely off the rails. There needs to be some of them, and so I'll ask that question.
Hans?
I'll say, from look at it from a business standpoint, the underlying technology is not only solid, but probably the future of finance and transactions. Like that piece of it is phenomenal. When you look at it from, all money is relative. It is a symbol of trade, so that it makes it easier to say, is my egg worth more than a battery? With a value to it, we can trade easier. It's outside the normal controls and constraints, which means it is a lot riskier. It has a much, much bigger downside and risk, and it also potentially could have a bigger upside. It has enabled basically illegal transactions. So things that you can't legally buy with money or a credit card, it now lets you buy them if you can get around the other laws. I'm not encouraging anyone. So it has enabled a lot of cottage industries. But, people, I've mentioned this before. If your hard drive and backups crash and you lose the codes to your currency, you're out the money. It's gone. It's not insured. It's not backed up. There's no recovering it.
It's actually happened.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it is very, very high risk. You should really look at what you get into, especially as you move into some of the other cryptocurrencies that are out there that really, they popped up almost overnight because people saw this was a bandwagon, like the .com boom, where register a domain name and I'll be rich. And then when it all crashes, I'm not, like a pyramid scheme, I'm not going to be the one to hold it. in my mind, Bitcoin operates as a legal pyramid scheme in a way. And just like stocks or anything else, if you're buying at the top of the price, you're probably going to lose money. If the price goes way down and you want to invest in it, then treat it like a stock, but be prepared that that money has to be money you are willing to lose 100% if things tank or the whole platform goes down. Carmi, your thoughts? Because you've seen this more from a news standpoint as well.
Yeah, just as background, before I was at Infotech, I was a journalist. I was covering the financial and technology sector for a number of publications here in Canada, and Bitcoin was a frequent topic of conversation for me, and I researched it and wrote about it extensively and spoke about it extensively. The original promise of Bitcoin was really currency for the digital age, is that currency as conceived historically simply did not translate well to the needs of the online world, is that it was very subject to fraudulent activity. Anyone who's tried to send payments of conventional currency across the internet knows the kind of limitations you run into. But if you could replace that with a fully encrypted, controllable, auditable platform, you could in fact move value from one individual or entity to another safely in a trusted manner. So the promise of, and I don't just want to say Bitcoin, it's really cryptocurrencies, virtual currencies in general, Bitcoin being the most popular one, the branded one, the Kleenex, the Xerox, the Coca-Cola of the space. The promise has been, let's just call it, somewhat subverted by, early stage uncertainty and speculation and, wild swings in valuation based on speculation, lack of any kind of fiscal control, to the point that would you use Bitcoin to manage your home budget or your mortgage or anything like that? Well, it's not stable enough at this point yet. It isn't universally accepted. The methods of exchanging it simply aren't there yet because we're still so early stage. So does that promise, as originally explained when virtual currency was first proposed, is that still worth pursuing? Absolutely. Are we there yet with Bitcoin? Sort of seeing that, how it continues to kind of spout headlines every once in a while that are, in some cases promising, in other cases disturbing. No, we're not there yet. Should we continue to pursue it? Absolutely. We owe it to ourselves because traditional currency, as originally conceived, just isn't going to cut it in the world that we live in today, and we need a better way. So the fact that we're even trying things, throwing them at the wall, some stick, some don't, I think that's worthwhile. Is it messy? Sure. Would I bet my mortgage or my financial future on it at this point? No. So disclosure, I'm not in it either for exactly that reason. But I'm kind of hoping that within my lifetime we move closer to that ideal. And I think this is just part of that process. It looks messy. It is messy. We'll get there.
So I want to bring up something as. Okay, go ahead, Michael.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Donald Brandt is an expert in Bitcoin, and he is now basically saying things to you in the comments. I would like for you guys to read those. I'd also like to have you chew in your brain as the last topic. Which one do you like better? You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Amazon or Walmart? Amazon or Walmart? Anybody in the comments? The other thing is, too, we are so close, folks, to the 250 on the business show. 250 people while we're on here, and I think the secret is dancing in the dark and praying for the light. I think that's
Amen.
where. Amen. Can I
Amen.
get a hallelujah on a Sunday afternoon? There you go.
Is it either or?
Go ahead, Carmi.
Yeah, is it Amazon or Walmart? Like, are we supposed to pick one? Is that the question?
No, I want you guys to pick which one you think, or we can. We got one Walmart. Richard says Walmart.
Talk about it.
Yeah. I think Amazon wins in the short term, and the company that will ultimately eclipse Amazon is still being invented in a garage somewhere, and we just don't know who they are. But Walmart is not the future. Walmart is the traditional retail past. They are struggling to convert their model to something that competes directly with Amazon. But history is an important teacher here. If you are following someone else's innovation, you will not dominate that market going forward. And pivoting to an entirely new business model, it's just not in Walmart's culture. And so, as much as I'd like to think that it'll be like a battle of two titanic giants in retail, Amazon's already shown us the way. And at some point, someone's going to come up with a post-Amazon reality, but it ain't going to be Walmart, and we're going to be looking at Walmart in the rear view before long.
Ari.
I loved the old Walmart when they really took care of people, and it was an enjoyable shopping experience. As they got away from Sam's original vision and the quality of service and just how much of a hassle it is, I still shop at Walmart frequently. There's things that provide such a value, it's worth the annoyance. But if I can, more and more, I'm shifting everything over to Amazon. It's just easier. I feel better about the products I buy because of the reviews, and I can really control it. Ari?
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of come in the middle of all of this here, where there is, again, going back to what kind of interaction do we like to do, right? Do we like to touch things in our hands and be able to, and be able to decide there and then there, do I want to buy that thing? There is a lot of people that actually still want that. And do I think it's going to be Walmart's going to be as big of a juggernaut as it is now? Probably not. But I want to say what both Walmart and Amazon have in common, and it's very, very important, is they both have trust. They both gained a lot of trust from their people, and I'll say, with Amazon here, I mean, I will buy from them because I know that they have my back. Or if I buy something and it happens to be a counterfeit item, and I've had that happen a couple times before, I send it back, say it's counterfeit, but get my money back, no questions asked. Walmart, you know what? They've been there for you for so many years. They're always there for you. They're that reliable stalwart there, and you trust them as well. Walmart did an interesting study, and I wish I remember where I read this, where they were actually looking at how price sensitive their customers were, and their price sensitivity was lower than the general market, because they built that trust. And so if I can go to Walmart and get it from them, I'll pay another 50 cents for that, for those towels, right? Because I trust them. And Amazon's the same way. It's not like I'm going to go around and price compare with Amazon versus other sites there, because other sites are a pain, right? And I know Amazon has my back. So what makes them both successful, and why I don't think either of them will go away, is that they've built an immense amount of trust, and that people have different ways they want to shop and interact, but they want that. They want, they know that that they'll walk in there and they're being taken care of, and they will have their back. So
I agree. I love what John said, and he said, I like to try my shoes and my pants and my clothing on. Yeah, how many times have you ordered stuff from Amazon and went, yeah, this isn't quite what I thought?
Yeah.
Well, if you're trying to be responsible, like we do whatever we can to reduce our waste and, pollution, everything we can get to make the world a little better place. Every time I order from Amazon, even though I have my Amazon day and I try and get them to ship stuff together, I feel bad when there's 10 boxes sitting on my front step with 10 different items. There's just so much waste built into that, and I'm hoping that part will get better. Plus, looking online, how soft is the clothing? Like, softness is something my wife taught me matters a lot, and how good is the quality? Amazon has not figured out how to provide that other than the review method. And I don't know that I trust people as to what you call soft is what I would. So there's always going to be a place for something like that. And I think Carmi's right. What that is, what that next hybrid will be, could be very different. Maybe we'll have touch-o-vision on our computers one day, just like smell-o-vision never worked.
Very good point, sir. Yeah, thank you for that. The richness of that was unbelievable. Guys, we're almost there. So listen, we're going to end the show now. But we're going to do our moment of gratitude. We do that with every show, and every time I look at Hans and he looks at me like, oh God, he's doing this again. Why is he doing this again? Because I do it every show. So let's start with Hans, because he loves it so much. Here we go.
Absolutely. Yep. Deer in headlights. So what am I thankful for?
Yes, great.
I'm going to go really microcosm here. It is Super Bowl Sunday.
Yes.
We have ribs and wings and 2 types of cheese dip and bagel bites and all sorts of food, and I think 6 different cookies and snacks. And I made a tremendous amount of Chex Mix last night. So this afternoon we have some close friends, all COVID negative, all safe, who are coming over, and we're just going to get together and have a wonderful, relaxing Super Bowl party. And no matter what happens, we're just going to have fun. So really thankful for Super Bowl Sunday, and for the afternoon, I'm going to ignore work and everything bad in life and just have fun.
Good for you.
Who wants to be next?
All right, go ahead.
Let me say first of all, Hans, the American snacking superpowers. I'm always in awe of them. So good for you. Take an event and just, there's something. I'll just say there's something so Jewish about all of that, right? Let's take any event possible. And let's wrap a ridiculous amount of food around it, and just you just want to die by the end of it. That's awesome. So what am I grateful for? I'm always grateful for my health. Right. I'm not even, this is not a COVID statement. This is just a general statement. I mean, past few months I've had different people that I know and family members, unfortunately pass on. A good friend of the family, their father just passed away literally yesterday. And so, I mean, I always kind of reflect on that and just, I'm grateful and thank God for health. I think we all, in our furor and our anger and just, us trying to just cope with it, with everything there, we kind of forget that, what, I can get up and walk to the, walk downstairs. I can get up and, walk around the block if I need to. And, thank God for that. And so that's what I'm grateful for. Yay.
All right, Carmi.
I'm right there with Ari. I am, I've had serious health issues in the past. I had a stroke years ago, and I was paralyzed on one side of my body, and I was not able to speak. So, and I have made a full recovery, and I'm able to get back to, or was able to get back to, and still am, to what I did best: to create, to collaborate, to do cool stuff, to go on air, be the person that I was beforehand. And so, like Ari, I wake up every morning, and my dad used to say, how people would ask him how he was doing. He goes, I woke up on the right side of the grass today. And that's it. I woke up on the right side of the grass. I could, move my right hand and feel it. I could, walk the dog, get out on my bike, and then come home, sit in front of my computer and hammer out amazingly creative stuff, surrounded by brilliant people like you see in front of you now. That's a blessing. And so every day that you're given with that ability is pretty amazing. And so I know we tend to complain about a lot of the things that we don't have. But, I look around me, and I was raised to believe that there's always someone else who's worse off than you. So you choose to focus on the things that you do have. And if you have your health and you have the ability to do something with it, then you really do have everything. And today, Super Bowl Sunday, tomorrow, get back to work and do some really cool stuff. We're lucky that we have those opportunities too. We really are blessed, and I am. And so I'm just thankful. I got another day today, and so far it's been an amazing one, surrounded by brilliance. And hopefully tomorrow will be the same thing. But you know what? I don't know. I'll know that when I wake up in the morning.
Okay, and it's going to be me. I'll finish it off here. Number one, just having this group of people today, man, was this a wonderful stew of insanity. I loved it. It was great, but it was organized insanity. It was good. And I felt like we danced on both sides, right? The dark, the light, the yin, the yang. And I love that we're so different, and yet we have such immense respect for each other in this room. And everyone, please, in the future, support these gentlemen. Make sure that you subscribe to them. If you want to donate Bitcoin to them, that would be lovely. And no.
We didn't ask for that.
No, we're good. We're good.
Save your money.
Yeah. But before we go, the people in the comments, who do you think is going to win? Write down who you think is going to win today, and be passionate about your answers. But listen, thank you again to everyone in the room. My Lord, was there a lot of comments and a lot of movement. And we broke the number. We did 257. Thank you so much for a business show. That is unheard of. We are definitely onto something here. And if you're a company and you're thinking you need some engagement from people from all over the world, please consider HAPS. And these gentlemen here, listen, if you ever need them on a project, maybe think of them as well. Have a great day. God bless you all. And for those who don't know right from wrong, we danced in the dark and we danced